after dinner, my daughter called out my name in a way that, I've never heard before. And so I turned around and looked, and when I looked at her, she was slumped over. Her face was drooped and she was drooling. And I tried to get words out of her and she couldn't speak. I called 911, and right away it just looked like a stroke to me, just from what you hear and what you read. They said that she looked like a tired little girl. And yeah, they set her on a gurney and she waited and waited and waited, and it wasn't until I pushed and pushed and pushed that the doctor decided that he'd run an MRI on her for my peace of mind. And after that reading, their respect for me and the way they were handling the situation was completely different. At that point, they realized that my daughter did have a stroke, and she was actually going through the stroke at that moment, and they needed to get care for her. People die of stroke, and she agreed, and she said, yeah. And I asked her, is my daughter going to die today? And then she said, we're just going to have to see. And they left me in that room with my daughter going through this stroke. And luckily, through the night, my daughter survived. I had so many questions, and all the questions were just never answered. And that was my biggest thing, was that I just didn't have that line of communication with the doctors. And once she got into that new hospital's ICU, they were on top of it. They ran all the tests. They were trying to figure out what it was that was causing her to have this recurring stroke. And after many tests, they realized that the first stroke happened and the second stroke happened due to, inadequate care. And the second stroke happened because the artery had clotted itself so much that it actually completely closed itself. So she had her left carotid completely closed, and at that point, when it closed, she suffered that second stroke. And it was hard. It was hard, and luckily, we had this wonderful care in the ICU, and I just knew that this was going to be different. But once we left, the aftercare was just, it was just not good enough. After everything that we had gone through, having the idea that you could make another mistake, and you being the one that makes that mistake for this child that just went through so much, it just was too much to bear. I was getting mentally and physically sick with the whole situation. I had to remember, what one doctor said, what the other doctor said. This doctor didn't agree with that doctor. This doctor couldn't remember that doctor, and they were prescribing medicine that just, that was the wrong amount of medicine. So all in all, there was so many things at play that I couldn't afford a mistake, and I refused to have this type of service. And so we kept looking, and that's where we found Children's Hospital of Boston. For once, I found a real team, a team where they talk to each other before meeting with the patient, they talk to each other after meeting with the patient, so that they were all in together with this rehab that they had for each child. And I just couldn't believe it, because this is exactly what I was looking for. This is exactly what I imagined existed in the medical field. And this is what I wanted, because I couldn't afford making a mistake, forgetting that one little detail that caused, a lifetime of trouble. So this program needs to be throughout the U.S. Every child needs a fighting chance, and every parent needs that help.